All right, then let's talk about the mayor's race. Things are starting to heat up. TV ads are running. Accusations are flying. Erin, let me put you on the spot. There's about 50 some odd days until Election Day, and you've got your eye on those petition challenges. So tell us, who is still in this race?
So with the petition challenges, so if you're not familiar, like basically you submit your petitions to get on the ballot, and anyone within that jurisdiction that you're running in can challenge your petitions. And that's kind of, thought of to be as how you hold people accountable for the signatures they're collecting. So I've kind of been watching these electoral board meetings where decisions are made on who, actually doesn't have enough valid signatures to stay on the ballot and who does. So one thing I'm really watching is these, for the first time ever, the city will, or Chicago voters will send representatives from each Chicago police district to represent them on this kind of civilian oversight council of the police department. Some people who are running for these positions decided to run as slates, which means they collected, together the same signatures and filed them. But I'm waiting to see if a decision will be made at some point, I'm guessing next week, on whether they actually can submit those petitions to run as a slate. And that'll be, precedent setting, because this hasn't come up for nonpartisan elections in Chicago before. But it is kind of like...
Interesting.
And it happens like... These petition challenges happen like literally in the basement of a building, like in the pedway near a subway, and like
a Subway sandwich shop, not like
Subway like wafting into the room, and this is the part of like local government that I enjoy observing. Does it need to be this way? I don't know.
So how many do we still have? Was it 10, 9
for the mayoral race? Yeah. So later today, I think a decision will be made that Frederick Collins will officially not be on the ballot.
Okay.
That's kind of...
And then we'll have 9.
Then we'll have 9.
Yes, we'll have 9.
So that'll be Lori Lightfoot, Chuy Garcia, Paul Vallas, Jamal Green, Kam Buckner, Brandon Johnson, Alderman Sophia King, Willie Wilson, and Rod Sawyer.
Yes.
Nailed it. Thanks, producers, for the cheat sheet. The top contenders at this point?
I think it's safe to say that probably Chuy Garcia has popularity. He has good name recognition. The mayor, Lori Lightfoot, she also has, name recognition, and I think to count her out would be a disservice. But I'm interested to see, how mayoral debates, which I'm guessing there are going to be a lot more coming up in the next 50 some days, how that affects
the rankings,
what people think about these candidates while they're standing or sitting, up on a stage side by side, answering questions for people to listen to.
Chuy, Lori, Willie, Vallas is the kind of top four list I've heard over and over from pollsters, but as my colleagues Greg Pratt and Alice Yen wrote a few days ago.
Yeah.
At this point in the race, Lori Lightfoot was polling at like 3% in 2019.
Right. So do you trust the polls then, given that?
That's a big question. Poll accuracy has been the story du jour in the political world for like the past decade. What can we trust? Who is actually responding to polls? I covered a couple county board races where I was initially told that a candidate, Maggie Trevor, was going to win by 20 points. She eked it out by like less than 1%. I'm going to defer to Tony on what kinds of polls are best to trust and what you should be looking for, because we're going to see a bunch of polls from a bunch of different firms. And Tony has been in politics for a long time and can tell you the kind of things that you should be reading and looking out for.
There was... Du jour is right. It's because there was just a poll in quotes, a survey yesterday released that Cranes wrote up and Daily Line wrote up that it was the sampling was not representative of what the city of Chicago looks like, let alone the electorate of the city of Chicago looks like, it doesn't. It's not even. I took basically nothing away from looking at that. There's nothing that told me about who's up, who's down. I'd say that what I look at right now for this mayor's race, it's an abbreviated campaign because it's in February, which whatever. But what I look for, I guess, is organization and cash. And the four that AD you just named they have the cash and they have the organization, and you're seeing that and that play out on in these ads. That it doesn't necessarily make you legitimate, but it does make you more competitive.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of ads, in one prominent one, Mayor Lightfoot goes after Chuy Garcia, questioning his ties to former Illinois House Speaker Mike Madigan. Let's listen to a little bit of that.
What do we really know about Chuy Garcia? Chuy secretly talked with his crypto crook who stole his customers' life savings, then spent a fortune to re-elect Garcia. Chuy cut deals to help himself with the since-indicted Mike Madigan, even while the disgraced speaker faced a federal corruption investigation.
Is this a legitimate line of criticism, or is this just politics, Tony?
No, I mean, Chuy Garcia talked about, he told a reporter that he had met and talked with Sam Bankman-Fried, and then his campaign for mayor had to kind of backtrack that and say, no, he talked to his brother. And so this is, with all the headlines about crypto and FTX, I think that it's not surprising that that's leaving him susceptible to those kinds of criticisms. Does that knock him down a peg in anyone's book? How effective is that? I don't know. Chuy has been in D.C. voting for a speaker for the last 4 days. He hasn't been able to be in Chicago since he's a congressman. So that's I'd be curious to see if he can even make it back tomorrow for one of these forums that's happening. Or if he's going to be stuck in D.C. So there's things like that about his candidacy.
Well, Erin, political strategist Delmarie Cobb told the Sun-Times that it was, quote, desperate for the mayor to get negative so early. What do you think?
I don't know if it's desperate, but this is the mayor's fourth TV ad, and this is the first time that she has gone negative. And I don't know if it's early or late. Like, it does feel like, the election is quickly approaching, but
it's February.
We've still got a long time before that. I don't know. This was a short kind of ad, but also this week we did see other candidates launch their first TV ads. We saw two from Paul Vallas. He kind of focused on violence reduction and public safety, and kind of tried to take the current administration to task for what they haven't done. Notably, he was standing outside of. My favorite thing is he was standing outside of the
county side.
Cook County side of the building instead of City Hall, but I don't know if that matters to anyone, really.
Just nerds.
And then Brandon Johnson came out with his first TV ad, too. It was 15 seconds long and just kind of highlighted where he stands on issues and what he's going to prioritize. So, it's not surprising that we're seeing negative ads, I don't think, at this point.
In other news, AD, on the mayor's race, Alderman Raymond Lopez, who recently dropped out of the race, he's thrown his support behind businessman Willie Wilson. Wilson won 13 of 18 black wards back in 2019. So could backing from a Latino alderman give him a broader appeal, you think? Or how much power or clout does this aldermanic endorsement have these days?
I don't think any single aldermanic endorsement is going to be a difference maker for any mayoral candidate, but every little bit kind of helps.
Okay.
The way that Wilson and Lopez described this was kind of like an attempt to recreate the Rainbow Coalition that Harold Washington did. I'm surprised we haven't heard more like Harold Washington comparisons. I feel like that is the one mayoral thing that gets repeated every time. Like, I am the Harold Washington in this race. I have this racial coalition across the city. Every candidate, I think, is going to have to. You can't just win one race in Chicago, one ethnicity, and succeed here. It is going to be about building coalitions. The one thing I am going to be looking at in polling, if we get good polls that are representative of the city, have landline and cell phone, generally aren't internet surveys where people can take it more than once. I am going to be looking at the margins that people can create for themselves to create victory. So there's an assumption that Chuy Garcia might win a significant portion of the Latino population. Will he combine that with the North Side Lakefront, where voting turnout is the highest? How's the black vote going to break out with so many black candidates? Paul Vallas is our only white candidate. Like, there's a lot of marginal thinking that all of these candidates are doing, and I think that's why Wilson made such a big deal out of an aldermanic endorsement that otherwise might not be a big deal.
Yeah. Well, this is about as good a time as any to mention that Reset is actually going to be holding 3 mayoral forums with the candidates on February 7th, 8th, and 9th. These will be in person at colleges and universities around the city. And we are very interested in what Chicago voters between the ages of 18 and 34 specifically would like to see from the next mayor. So if you would like to take a quick survey to help shape those programs on February 7th, 8th, and 9th, head over to WBEZ.org where we've got a great survey for you that'll be truly helpful to us.